Meeting of the Ventura County Transportation Commission of May 6, 2022. Let's call it to order, and with the Pledge of Allegiance, Commissioner White, could you lead us in the pledge? Thanks, Commissioner White. Madam Clerk, would you please take roll? And I'll just note for the record that we have Commissioner Huber, who has joined us by teleconference, so all of our votes, all of our actions will be taken by roll call today. And Madam Clerk, with that, if you please call the roll.
Chair Trembley.
Here.
Vice Chair Macdonald.
Here.
Commissioner Hilda. Commissioner Chavez.
Here.
Commissioner Edmonds.
Here.
Commissioner Huber. Commissioner Johnson. Commissioner Long.
Here.
Commissioner Judge. Commissioner Parks. Commissioner Ramirez. Commissioner Rollins. Commissioner Sauvé.
Here.
Hello.
Great, thank you, Madam Clerk.
Commissioner Wyrick.
I'm here.
Wait a minute. Okay, we got everybody? All right. And Commissioner White.
White as well, too.
Oh, Commissioner White.
Here.
The W's are.
That's okay, it's Friday. We got everybody accounted for, though, right?
Yes.
Okay, thanks, Roxana. Let's see, at this time, are there any public comments?
There are no public comments at this time.
All right, thank you very much. We're going to move then to item number 5, and I want to welcome Jeff Newman to the dais. And Jeff is the Chief of Staff for Tony Tavares, and we're very happy that you are with us today. And I think you get the Long Distance Award because you've come up from Redondo Beach. So we're very pleased to see you.
Thank you, Chair.
Welcome aboard.
Thank you so much. Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Chair Trembley. Firstly, on behalf to the Commission and to everyone here, on behalf of Director Tavares and the entire team and Caltrans District 7, we want to express our deepest sadness and condolences in regard to the tragic loss of life this week from the Arroyo Simi Bridge. And I also wanted to share, as you can also see in the Director Erickson's report, that there are items that we have been in discussion about and making progress on our Arroyo Simi Bridge suicide deterrent effort to install a safety fence at the location. So I want to give you kind of a brief sense of where we are in this. We have entered the planning phase, and this is also detailed in the Executive Director's report that you have. The work is scheduled to begin on the initial project initiation report this July, with a target completion date of May 2023 for the scoping of it. The work on the environmental phase would then proceed as early as July 2024, once the California Transportation Commission programs the project. We have in parallel initiated a long lead proactive safety project for this through the shop cycle. The preliminary budget is estimated to be $10 million for the project cost based on a barrier fence option. And in regard to the specifics of utilizing the fence for prevention of suicide purposes, when we were discussing this with law enforcement, as you know, they can be very, very responsive to getting to the site. And they talked about with us, you know, how a fencing structure could help to delay people's, that could keep them there so till they can arrive. So we're looking at one of the possibilities is installing a vertical net fence that's similar to what's being considered at the Coronado Bridge. That's based on something that just went up at the Skyway Bridge in Florida. It's a fencing that actually is designed to delay people from climbing it in regard to suicide prevention. Other options will also be explored during the planning phase. And the target date for installation would be in 28, 29, although we would like to complete the environmental phase sooner than that. And if there's funding available in earlier fiscal years, of course, we would accelerate that as well. So I wanted to share that with all of you. Thank you. In addition, there's a couple of items I wanted to share in regard to funding opportunities. One is in regard to the federal multimodal project discretionary grant opportunity. The department did not receive any requests from any jurisdictions within Ventura County for a letter of support for any project, and all the applications are due to the U.S. DOT on May 23rd. For state funding opportunities, the SB1 competitive programs, the application period will open in August, after the August CTC meeting. The district is working with the VCTC on rail and active transportation improvements in US 101 corridor, and Caltrans will determine in July whether or not we partner on the application, and the application period opens again in August. In addition, VCTC, and this is one of the items in your agenda, was awarded a sustainable transportation planning grant to study wildlife movement in the Conejo Pass area. The project will be completed at the end of February in 2025. And I just want to share with you as a last point, the upcoming events for the Sustainable Transportation Planning Grant Program. In July, there'll be a release of the draft 2023-24 grant application guide, for which will have a 30-day public comment period. In August, will be 2 virtual workshops for stakeholders to provide final input. And in September, the grant applications will be released, the guide will be released, and a call for applications, and a set of virtual workshops. And in October, the grant application deadline, which the final date's yet to be determined. And that's our report for today. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Newman. Are there any questions from commissioners for Mr. Newman? Commissioner Chavez.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you to our Caltrans for the report. I have a question in regards to the Arroyo Simi Bridge. I'm wondering, what time of days are most of these incidents occurring? And the only reason why I ask that is because when I'm driving on the freeways or going over areas, if I see someone walking, the first response for me is to automatically call 911. So what time of days are these incidents occurring?
We've been told from law enforcement, I don't have a specific answer to your question, but and also I should say that, and Director Erickson is going to speak to this as well, that there is a upcoming meeting of the task force that includes law enforcement and also D.D. Hirsch Mental Health Center, and so I don't have a specific answer as far as time of day. What I can share is there's not specific locations along the structure that law enforcement has shared that it does occur across it. They've also shared that many folks have called in, so they have like a 3 to 5 minute response time.
Okay.
But I don't have a specific answer, but I can certainly.
No, and I appreciate just that little information. I think my biggest thing is that with the task force that although the fencing is a great idea, but maybe looking at alternative also, maybe better lighting in the area, something that is going to be more reflective, and obviously more signage if necessary, but definitely just wanted to know the time of day, just in case lighting is an issue.
Understood, and just to loop back on what you're saying, the effort will be to look at things comprehensively as far as what services the suicide prevention. So, you know, that's part of the scoping, so absolutely right. Thank you.
I appreciate that. Thank you, Chair.
Commissioner Parks?
Yes, thank you for your report, and I just want to point out that we on the commission have talked about being a part of the committee to see what we can do to prevent any more suicides. It's really tragic, and I think that anything that we can do to expedite physically preventing it is possible, that is the best way, and any way we can help you with expediting that, I'm sure you have our back in that.
Thank you.
And also, it was remarkable to see the groundbreaking of the wildlife graveyard. The governor was there, and not too often you see that many legislators come. It's just really shined a light on our region and on Caltrans. I don't know how many here were able to be there, but the governor was so excited to be there, and he couldn't believe everybody was happy and smiling. There were no protesters. And for all of us, it's just very happy to see that move forward, and appreciate Caltrans' collaboration on this.
Thank you, Supervisor Parks. Thank you.
Commissioner Edmonds, followed by Commissioner Long.
Let you know that someone wanted to get your attention, but
Thank you, okay.
sorry.
So, Commissioner Long.
Thank you very much. Again, I just want to support the completion of Lewis Road to Somas Road, and I appreciate the office working with us on that. We have some development in the unincorporated area and want to make sure that there's a smooth thoroughway with bike lanes and sidewalks for making sure that there's a connection to our downtown Camarillo area. Then also, we are working on a new hospital system in Santa Clara Valley, which is on the 126. And so to make sure that we're a great partner with Caltrans so that people can walk and bike and enter into that hospital system very safely. I know there is some major stoplights and such that will create some backup on the 126, but we want to make sure that that freeway is very safe. So that's on my radar as well when we do reports, is to make sure that we're reporting on that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions for Mr. Newman? All right. Thank you, Mr. Newman, very much. Let's go ahead and move to item 6. Are there any comments from commissioners? Commissioner White.
Thank you, Chair Trembley. I'd like to ask that we close the meeting today in honor of Mike Culver. He was the executive director with Mobility Management Partners that supports people with disabilities, seniors, and others who face transportation and mobility challenges, and it enhances their quality of life with the travel training. They've been a partner here with VCTC for the last 10 years, so thank you very much.
And without objection, we will close the meeting in Mr. Culver's memory. Thank you, Commissioner White. Let's see, Vice Chair Macdonald.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And Vanessa, I didn't warn you about this ahead of time, but you may want to walk up to the podium real quick if you get a chance. Gold Coast Transit District is looking to the future and moving completely to emissionless vehicles. And the model we picked is the hydrogen fuel cell over just the rechargeable battery systems. And we will be bringing a hydrogen fuel cell bus into Gold Coast for people to see. If you're interested, I would encourage you. And I've asked General Manager Vanessa Rauschenberger to come up because I can't remember what day we're bringing it in. So Vanessa, if you could let us know, so that way if people are interested in seeing the new technology, they can make arrangements to come out to Gold Coast and see it.
Sure. Thank you, Commission, for having me come up to speak, but June 1st and 2nd, we'll have a hydrogen fuel cell bus coming down from Sunline Transit. Gold Coast Transit District is a member of ZEBRA. It's a zero-emission bus resource group. It's a member I encourage the commission to also consider being part of. It's an educational effort among transit operators in California to share knowledge, learn from each other, and was started by Sunline Transit down in Palm Springs. And so they've offered to bring down one of their fuel cell buses for a couple of days. We'll have it on display after our June board meeting for the day, and then we'll also be putting it on route so that customers and the public can give it a try. So I encourage you, if you're interested, reach out to me, and we'll make sure that you have an opportunity to come check out the technology.
Thank you very much, Vanessa. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. Any other comments from any commissioners? And I note again for the record, we have Commissioner Huber participating by telephone, so certainly Commissioner Huber, anytime you have a question or a comment, please chime in. All right, no further comments by commissioners. Let's go to the Executive Director, Mr. Erickson.
Thank you, Chair Trembley, Commissioners. Good morning. Happy Friday to everybody. It's been a busy, almost little over a month. I was just reflecting that we had our April 1st meeting in person, and we had our April 13th goal-setting session, and now here we are May 6th with the May Commission meeting. You have the Executive Director's report in front of you. I will just add to follow up on Jeff Newman's discussion, again, following the tragic events yesterday at the bridge, that we are working to set up the next task force meeting, and will continue to work very closely with Caltrans on this very important project going forward. On the flip side of the Executive Director's report, I wanted to cover a few items. You are all familiar with the community engagement activities we've been undertaking as part of the Comprehensive Transportation Plan. So just wanted to bring to your attention the online survey availability and some upcoming events, some pop-up events that are going to be occurring in the month of May. We will be at the Moore Park Earth Day Festival, May 7th, the Channel Islands Farmers Market on May 15th, and the Santa Paula Farmers Market on a Friday in May. That date still to be determined. But please thank all of you. Many of you have participated in getting the word out for that and have participated individually as commissioners and as a commission as a whole. And I want to acknowledge Amanda Fagan and her team for the excellent work on that. Another item, after 2 years of reduced in-person events, the VCTC is making the rounds at other events. The Older Americans Month and Mental Health Awareness Month, it occurs in May also. And on Wednesday, May 4th, transit staff attended a Cinco de Mayo event at the Santa Paula Senior Health Fair, and I'm happy to report it was very well attended, and they passed out a lot of good collateral. So it's nice to see those events occurring again. I believe that was the first event for the Santa Paula Senior Health Fair in person in over 2 years. So, and then on April 16th, VCTC participated in the Pleasant Valley Recreation and Parks Department's Egg Extravaganza. So you can look on the slide being shown right now. We were able to feature one of our VCTC Intercity Big Blue buses, as well as one of our Freeway Service Patrol vehicles. A couple of VCTC staff there. Drew is in the picture there with some folks from the Comprehensive Transportation Plan, and it was a very well-attended event. The bus and the FSP vehicle were big hits, so happy to report that that event went very well. May is also Bike Month. I have very fond memories of Bike Month, not only as a I don't want to say an aspiring cyclist. I'm still cycling, and not as much as I would like to sometimes, but I do remember the many years I was at the city of Oxnard. The VCTC sponsored Bike Day and Bike Work Day, we had events in Plaza Park. Many of your cities are hosting their own bicycle events, but we are working to coordinate with you to really make Bike to Work Day something that becomes more of a permanent part of people's lives, whether they bike to work, whether they do it recreationally. And Bike to Work Week is May 16th through the 20th, and Bike to Work Day is May 20th. And VCTC is sponsoring a program where people can pledge to ride, and that's at goventura.org/pledge, and be entered to win one of 6 $250 gift cards. So, I mean, it's great to bike anyway, but with an incentive like that, we're hoping to make it even more popular. The VCTC is also using Bike Month to remind riders and motorists about bicycle safety, and you may have seen some of our promotions online about that. I think they're very well done. As a cyclist, I appreciate them. I'm happy to report in my 15 years of cycling, I have not been, thankfully, in an accident yet, but it is a constant issue for cyclists and riders, and informing, especially drivers, car drivers, that bicyclists are on the road. VCTC staff will also be participating in Cyclemania activities, and those are organized by the County of Ventura's Sustainability Division. So again, part of our partnership with not only all our city member agencies, but also with the county. And then finally, on kind of more little bittersweet news, and I'm glad we have this photo up here, but Aaron Bonfilio, many of you know, our nearly 9-year VCTC employee, is going to be joining our sister agency in the north, the Santa Barbara County Association of Governments, SBCAG, as a director of rail and transit. So again, a little bittersweet, because Aaron has been a key part of the transit team and key part of my staff when I was the transit director. But I'm excited for him, and I believe those are, I hope I'm right on this, I think those are his kids on the far right picture, or one of them, but on the bus. So he brought his family to the event. But that bus, the Coastal Express, reflects probably one of our most successful partnerships with SBCAG. They fund nearly half the service, almost $1 million a year. So I'm hoping that we can keep that relationship strong. He'll also be participating on LoSAN with our partnership with SBCAG on LoSAN, so he still will be involved in activities. I appreciate that he's staying around till almost early part of June, so he'll be here for the next meeting too, and he has some items, pretty big items on the agenda today too, so I do appreciate him helping with the transition, and he will be missed. And with that, I open any questions.
Any questions for Mr. Erickson? Mr. Vice Chair.
Just a comment, Mr. Bonfilio, congratulations on your move to SBCAG. I look forward to continuing to work with you on the LoSAN front, and also having you as a known quantity on SBCAG that will be very beneficial to both of our agencies. So congratulations, and you don't have to worry about the commute from Santa Barbara anymore, so you're in a good position. Thank you for your efforts here.
Commissioner Long.
I ditto Commissioner Macdonald's comments. I really wish you the best and want to say thank you for your dedication and just support for our transit system here in Ventura County. I know that you'll transfer that up to Santa Barbara, so we're actually very lucky to have worked with you, and you know exactly what we are hoping for. So I'm hopeful for the partnership, and then also to keep us abreast as to hiring for this position, as right now is a hard time to get people to come to the work, it seems. So I look forward to that, and I'm sure we'll find a good candidate as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. 2 observations. One, Aaron, thank you for your exemplary work, truly exemplary work on behalf of VCTC. We are going to miss you, but you're going to be here this meeting, and you have items to present, and we'll see you at the next meeting as well. So the second thing is that when we looked at the extravaganza, I couldn't help with a personal note that we have a 1-year-old grandson, and I hope that we can attend next year, because he'll be 2, and maybe he'll figure out Easter eggs by then. We'll see how that goes. All right. Are there any other, maybe his grandparent will figure out Easter eggs as well. All right. That's it with respect to item 6. Item 7, are there any additions or revisions, Mr. Mattis, Mr. Erickson, to the agenda?
There are no additions to the agenda. Mr.
All
Mayor.
right, so noted, no additions or revisions. Let's move to consent calendar. Before I ask for a motion, are there any public comments with respect to any item on the consent calendar? Hearing none, do any members or any commissioners want to pull any item? All right, if not, may I hear a motion?
Motion to approve?
Chavez seconds.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Commissioner Bill de la Peña? Yes. Commissioner Chavez?
Aye.
Commissioner Edmonds?
Yes.
Commissioner Huber? Commissioner Long?
Yes.
Commissioner Parks?
Yes.
Commissioner Rollins? Commissioner Sobel? Commissioner Wyrick?
Yes, but abstain from 8A due to absence.
Commissioner White? Yes. Vice Chair Macdonald?
Yes.
Chair Trembley?
Yes. All right, for the record, that item is approved on a unanimous vote, with one abstention as noted with respect to one item by Commissioner Wyrick. Let's move now to discussion calendar. First item up is an action item under number 9, which is the TDA unmet transit needs findings for fiscal year 22-23, and I believe Ms. Grasty is at the lectern.
Good morning, Commissioners. So I'll be presenting the unmet transit need finding this year. Go over the process a bit again. So throughout the year, we take feedback from the community for transit needs for throughout the county, but we do a specific push from mid-December through mid-February. We also hold a public hearing. After that, we collect all the feedback and analyze it, respond to it, and evaluate it. And then here we are recommending the findings to the commission, and then we will implement any recommendations. So just to go over again what an unmet transit need is really new or expanded service. And in order to be considered an unmet need, an item must have 15 comments or for dial-a-ride service must be 10 comments. But it also must meet a number of other criteria, which includes, an agency must have enough vehicles to implement the service. The service cannot cause reductions in existing service, and transit vehicles must be able to safely navigate the streets, among other things. If a service is instituted, it is held to the fare box recovery standards, but at this point, those have been suspended. So as I mentioned, feedback is collected year-round, and we collect it through the website, through email, social media, phone, back in the day in person at the office, but we started doing community events again through those as well. As I mentioned, there's a significant push through December through February, where we also hold an online survey. We do community meetings, and at this point have been virtual the last couple of years, as I mentioned, a public hearing. So this year we had comments from 90 people. This is, the last 2 years, so it's been a little lower than they had been pre-COVID, but, we hope to increase that going forward. The top 2 requests, as they had been previously in the last couple of years, are again service to Santa Clarita and service between Moore Park and Fillmore. Other requests we got this year were service to LA County, including for additional Metrolink and Pacific Surfliner service. There are also varying requests for both improvements to both VCTC Inner City Service and Gold Coast Transit District. I'll just note that the Gold Coast Transit District is not part of the unmet needs process, but we do try to collect comments for any sort of transit or even sometimes non-transit need, and we give all of those comments back to the operators or the appropriate party. So this year there were no requests that met this 15 comment threshold for fixed route service and none for dial-a-ride. But as we've been planning for the last couple years, we do really want to put together a plan and study the service requests for service to Santa Clarita and service between Fillmore and Moore Park. So these comments did meet the 15 comment threshold 2 years ago, but due to COVID, a number of operators, as you know, have had to reduce their service. So the emphasis has really been on bringing back service for these operators before moving forward with these plans for these 2 different new services. So at this time, the Valley Express service has re-implemented all of their service, but the VCTC intercity service has not. So that will continue to be the priority, but simultaneously, we do hope to do more work on trying to eventually implement these 2 services. I also want to note that, we heard the comments from the community and from the commission. We really, wanted to do a better job of, really letting the community know how important it is that we get their feedback and what it has led to in the past. So comments that have come out of the unmet needs process, while they're not always, don't lead to a technical unmet need, have led to service improvements throughout the county. Some of which are the Metrolink Saturday service, which we plan to expand to both weekend days in the future. We extended the Coastal Express route from that had ended in Oxnard to Camarillo. There have been multiple bus stop improvements, and as I mentioned, we began planning for the service between Fillmore and Moore Park and to Santa Clarita. Also, in response to the request to have better information on what has been done and what the process is, we've really updated the website to include better information. We followed up with all of the survey takers and sent out, and anyone who submitted a comment through our website. And we sent out an e-blast, and we've done some follow-up social media posts and stuff, and we'll continue to work on that front. And so with that, I'd be happy to take any questions.
Thanks, Ms. Grasty. Do any commissioners have any questions for Ms. Grasty? Commissioner White.
Thank you, sir. No questions, really. Well, I do have a question. Can people send their feedback in throughout the year?
Absolutely. Anytime, any questions or comments we get basically from, mid-February, March on, just get applied to the next year.
Actually, I knew the answer, but I just wanted to hear you say
Yes.
that.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
And second of all, I really appreciate the progress that's made from this program, because a lot of it doesn't fit under this particular system, but a lot of the transit operators take that information and go with it. So I really appreciate that information that's being sent to all the transit operators. And also that we get online surveys, and we just get it out as much as we can. So appreciate that. Thank you very much for your report.
Thank you.
Commissioner Long.
Yes, thank you for this survey. I really appreciate getting the information. From the last time, there was concern in regards, at least in Santa Paula and Fillmore, for my constituents on going to Moore Park College, and noting that there wasn't enough students for a large bus, but that perhaps maybe a smaller bus would be something that we could facilitate. Could you state where we are on that?
Sure. So most of the discussions have been internal. We haven't done necessarily anything formal at this point. But yes, we have talked about, navigating the roads back there, maybe not appropriate for, 40 or 45-foot bus. But I think smaller buses, are through, we have those throughout the county. They're certainly would probably be more appropriate for a route like that. So we have looked at, I think we internally have a decent idea of what is feasible. We have not at this point costed anything out. I think once we know a new grant cycle is available, I think we'll really kind of strategize between these 2 projects and I think in the Santa Clarita grant, there's a lot more We want to really work with Santa Clarita on that. I think that's probably going to be a bigger push, but service between Fillmore and Moore Park, I think, may be a little bit more feasible and easier to work with the local partner. So I think now that this process has concluded, we would like to start working with all of the communities that are involved in this, and then continue. I think it certainly is feasible, but maybe not with a large bus.
Well, I would appreciate that. I just understand that students are going back to school now, that need for being on campus and in that area. Not everyone has the car that they need or so forth. The only thing that we have noticed is if we're going from that area to Oxnard campus or Ventura's campus is the time frame. So, time frame of classes versus getting there and so forth. So if we could work with the college districts, I would greatly appreciate it. Because
Certainly.
not every discipline is at every school. So like the nursing program in Moore Park is great versus in different areas. And sometimes you have to jump around for the class that you need to each different campus. And it's a little bit hard, and I just would like to support the community with that. So thank you.
Sure. That's a great point. We'll keep that in mind. We have good contacts from the colleges with our college ride program, so we can certainly follow up on that.
Commissioner Sobel.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for the presentation. Just a quick clarification. In Chapter 2, what is the entrance and needs process? It talks about, going out to areas with populations less than 100,000, so Camarillo, Moore Park, Fillmore, Santa Paula, and then TO because of the T-Day funds. But I'm imagining people who live in unincorporated areas can submit, and they're part of the pool of responses that count?
Yeah, certainly. I think if as long as they're not a part of the Gold Coast Transit District and or Simi Valley, really, then we take those comments. And even if they don't apply to the technical unmet need definition, we still take those comments. But yes, if they're in unincorporated areas, especially near those cities that are listed, we absolutely take those comments.
Any other questions from commissioners? Do we have any public comment on this item? All right, hearing none, let's bring it back to the commissioners. I know this isn't, I'm sorry, Mr. Erickson?
We do not have any public comment.
Okay, good. Do I hear an action or a motion from any of the commissioners?
Chavez moves.
Wait a second.
All right, we have a motion and a second on this item. Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Commissioner Bill de la Peña,
Yes.
Commissioner Chavez,
Aye.
Commissioner Edmonds,
Yes.
Commissioner Huber, Commissioner Long,
Yes.
Commissioner Parks,
Yes.
Commissioner Rollins,
Yes.
Commissioner Sobel,
Yes.
Commissioner Wyrick,
Yes.
Commissioner White,
Yes.
Vice Chair Macdonald,
Yes.
Chair Trembley.
Yes. And the record will reflect that that item was adopted on a unanimous vote by the commission. That brings us to item number 10, which is the US 101 project status report. And Mr. DeHaan,
Yes,
you're
good
up.
morning, Commissioners. As you know, as I believe all of you know, VCTC, with significant staff support from Caltrans, is managing, preparing the environmental document to consider improvements to US 101. And we have been bringing periodic updates to you. This has gone on for several years now. So I'm basically here to introduce the project manager that VCTC has brought on board from WSP. He's spoken to you before, but it's been a while. Stephen Yoshizumi, and he'll be making this presentation. So as you'll hear, there has been a significant amount of work done, especially the engineering, which is the most costly part. The engineering work is virtually complete. There's still a significant amount of time, though, because of the steps with the environmental analysis, so it's still going to be a while before we get to the next public phase, other than commission presentations, which is the draft, releasing the draft environmental document for comment. So we will be back to you at least one more time before the draft environmental document is released. So with that, I'll turn it over to Stephen.
All right. Let's see. Okay, so good morning, Chair Trembley and Commissioners. As Peter said, my name is Stephen Yoshizumi, and I am here this morning to provide a review of the project development process for the US 101 Improvement Project. I'll start with a project background and overview and discuss the importance of the project, describe our current public outreach activities, review the alternatives analysis process, and discuss how the project development team selected the alternatives to be studied in detail. I'll finish with some information related to the wildlife movement study and review ongoing project tasks and our plan to determine an early action project. I'll begin with a description of the project area and some background information about the planning activities that led to the current project. So US 101 is the major coastal north-south route that connects the northern, central, and southern areas of the state. Regionally, US 101 connects Ventura County's communities and the neighboring counties. The project study area was defined as extending from south of Moore Park Road in the city of Thousand Oaks through the cities of Camarillo and Oxnard to south of SR 33 in the city of Ventura. This section of freeway has been referred to as Main Street, Ventura County. In 2011, the Ventura County Transportation Commission, through your Comprehensive Transportation Plan, identified US 101 as the roadway network's highest priority within the region. VCTC then requested that Caltrans prepare a planning document called a Project Study Report, which considered an initial set of project alternatives. This study was completed in 2013. Next, VCTC and Caltrans worked together to develop the scope of work for the next phase of project development, the project approval and environmental document phase. WSP was selected in March of 2018 to provide consulting services for the development of this phase. Additionally, VCTC completed a separate study, the 101 Communities Connected Study, that was a multimodal corridor study that looked at options for enhancing modes of travel in addition to the freeway. Within the project area, US 101 chiefly consists of 3 general purpose or regular lanes in each direction. At spot locations, there are auxiliary lanes as well. The 101 Communities Connected study documented the high volume of vehicles that use the freeway in the peak hour and throughout the day, as seen in this chart. This results in several hours of congestion on a daily basis, which is forecast to get worse due to region-wide population growth. A measure of the intensity of the congestion is the travel time. Traffic projections for 2060 forecast that it will take nearly an hour to drive from Moore Park Road to SR 33 on US 101 in both the morning and evening rush hour, and the average speed on US 101 will be a little more than 30 miles per hour. The travel time index is another measure of congestion and tells us that a trip from one end of the project area to the other will take twice as long in the peak period as it does when there is no congestion. And while 2060 sounds like it's a long ways off, large infrastructure projects like this one take a long time to fund and construct, so planning for improvements must be done now. To summarize these points, US 101 has been identified as Ventura County's highway network's greatest area of need for more than a decade. Parts of US 101 have not been approved since the 1960s. Both jobs and residences are focused around US 101. More than half of the trips in the corridor stay within the project area. There are no continuous parallel routes. Speeds will decrease and travel time will increase. Both person and goods movement will be constrained on the US 101 corridor. And while there are several options for travel in the corridor, the freeway, transit, rail, an additional option would enable travelers to opt out of congestion, which is listed as a key action in Caltrans' Climate Action Plan for Transportation Infrastructure. Throughout the development of this project, VCTC has implemented a continuous public involvement and outreach program, and here are a few of the highlights of those efforts. At the beginning of the project, we developed a project website, ourfuture101.org, that describes the project and the steps we are going through to reach a decision on a preferred alternative. It also describes the corridor issues that this project is trying to address. and it lists past and future meetings and gives the public an opportunity to stay connected if they want to provide their contact information. The public can also send questions to VCTC through the website. We are also using Instagram to convey information to the public, and here are two of our more recent posts, one about noise measurement equipment and one mentioning the limits of the project. If you are on Instagram, feel free to follow us at Our Future 101. We initially used the website and our Instagram post to advertise our 4 scoping meetings back in April of 2019, when we met with interested citizens in each of the 4 corridor cities to hear their thoughts about the issues in the 101 corridor and their reactions to a range of possible alternatives. Since then, we have sent out e-blasts to the people who have provided their email addresses, continued with our Instagram posts, and provided updates to the Commission in 2019 and 2020. Now I'll review planning efforts that considered a variety of alternatives before narrowing the list to those that would be evaluated in the environmental document. Initially, we had a list of alternatives that came from the Caltrans project study report completed in 2013, and from the project development team, and from the public through the public scoping process. These alternatives were compared to the project purpose and need, and to traffic, engineering, and environmental criteria that were recommended by the project development team, or PDT, which is made up of representatives of VCTC, Caltrans, the County of Ventura, and the 4 corridor cities, Thousand Oaks, Camarillo, Oxnard, and Ventura. When compared to the recommended criteria, some of the initial set of alternatives were found to result in higher levels of environmental and property impact for little or no improvement in freeway and local roadway operations compared to other alternatives. Those that performed better were selected to be in the final set of alternatives to be studied in greater detail in the environmental document. In all, the no-build condition and 10 build alternatives were evaluated. These 10 alternatives included features such as HOV lanes for carpools, van pools, and express buses, general purpose lanes that would be open to all drivers, tolled lanes, and a dedicated transit way on an elevated structure that could be used by either buses or light rail. The PDT decided on the alternatives to be studied in the environmental document in January 2020. Since that time, the project has been moving forward with the detailed evaluation of these alternatives. At our last presentation to the Commission in July 2020, I presented the 3 alternatives that were approved by the PDT for further study. The no-build, an HOV express bus lane in each direction with auxiliary lanes where operationally beneficial, and an HOV express bus lane in each direction with auxiliary lanes where operationally beneficial, and a few design variation, and I'll describe each of these in a little more detail. First, the no-build alternative is used as a baseline against which the other alternatives can be measured. Alternative 2 adds an HOV lane for carpools, van pools, and express bus service in each direction on US 101 from approximately Moore Park Road to near California Street. Alternative 2 would also include adding auxiliary lanes between certain on and off ramps where they improve the flow of traffic on the freeway. One of the unique features of Alternative 2 is that both northbound and southbound, it would use the existing inside lane between Vineyard and Victoria to provide a standard width HOV lane in this section without widening the Santa Clara River Bridge. Alternative 3 would be very similar to Alternative 2, providing the HOV lane on US 101 from Moore Park Road to near California Street. It would also include design variations that would improve the freeway alignment on the Conejo grade, improve a southbound bottleneck near Dawson Drive, and end the northbound HOV lane south of California Street to improve operations. Unlike Alternative 2, though, in the segment between Vineyard and Victoria, this alternative would maintain the existing number of general purpose lanes across the Santa Clara River Bridge by restriping the left shoulder and the HOV and inside general purpose lanes to be narrower, requiring no widening of the bridge. Next, I'll review the origin of the wildlife movement study. During agency review of a report called the Wildlife Connectivity Assessment that was prepared for the US 101 Improvement Project, the need was identified for data related to the movement of wildlife in the Conejo Pass area surrounding the Conejo Grade to determine how to best address the need for wildlife to cross US 101 in this area. Last October, VCTC applied for a Caltrans Sustainable Transportation Planning Grant, and the grant was approved in March of 2022 and will provide for radio tracking multiple species using GPS collars and remote cameras to monitor wildlife use of existing crossing points and areas in the vicinity of the freeway. The grant funds will be used by the National Park Service as a subrecipient to VCTC to carry out the study. The project lead will be Dr. Seth Riley of the National Park Service, who made a presentation on wildlife crossing issues at the November 6, 2020 Commission meeting. VCTC will be coordinating with both Caltrans and Dr. Riley regarding the scope of the work and next steps. Now I'll mention our current project activities. Since the determination of the final set of alternatives, we've been performing the traffic modeling and analysis, including assessing vehicle miles traveled, or VMT, based on the requirements of Senate Bill 743. We've been preparing the engineering evaluations, such as impacts to drainage and utilities, among many, many others, and developing the environmental technical studies in support of the environmental document. Virtually all of the engineering technical studies are complete, along with many of the environmental technical studies. We anticipate returning to the Commission prior to the release of the draft environmental document. The project will be completed following selection of a preferred alternative and development of an early action phasing strategy in early '23. The early action phasing strategy will include an assessment of the project elements that can be built and provide benefits to the corridor if they are the first phase of the overall project construction effort. The first steps will be for VCTC to determine how much funding will be available for the first phase of construction, assuming the existing funding sources only. If new sources of funding become available, the total available funding may change and the extent of the first phase project would need to be reassessed. Concurrently, the project team will be preparing construction cost estimates for the total project with data that can be evaluated by phase. Once the total of the first phase funding is determined and the extent of the phase can be established, an operational benefit analysis will be performed to see what phases provide the greatest bang for the buck. We look forward to returning to the Commission in the future to provide future updates on the progress of this project. Thank you for your time, and I'm available to answer any questions.
Thank you very much, Mr. Yoshizumi and Mr. DeHaan. Do we have questions from commissioners? Commissioner White.
Thank you, Chair Trembley. I just have a question about getting on the freeway. I don't know what the specific name is for this, but there's stop-and-go lights in Simi Valley that stop traffic before they go on and only allow one car every so often. Can we do that in Camarillo and Oxnard? Or why can't we do that in Camarillo and Oxnard?
So those are called ramp meters. And can they be implemented? That's would be a joint decision between Caltrans and the local agencies, local cities, to evaluate the travel demand on those ramps and come up with a plan for implementing them.
So as I travel from south to north and I look at the city of Camarillo and I see 10 cars getting ready to get on the freeway all at once, I think, would it be easier if one got on at a time and it wouldn't stuff up the road? So I guess I've made my point.
I'll respond to that later. Commissioner Chavez and Commissioner Wyrick is on deck.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for the presentation. Is it possible for you to go back to the slide where it shows alternative number 2?
Sure.
Thank you. Here are my concerns with this one, and then I have a couple of questions about this, is when we're looking at the 101, there's portions of the 101 between the 23 and the 33 that are essentially narrower than other parts. Some parts are uneven when you're looking at the center median. My concerns with this is looking at what happened in LA County with the 405 freeway, They expanded it on both sides, and the congestion is still the same. I've also experienced multiple times on freeways in LA County and Orange County that has those HOV lanes, and a single rider in a car is utilizing those HOV lanes, and there's no enforcement about them. So I guess ultimately, when looking at these things, what measures are we going to put in place in regards to the HOV lanes that ensures that those that are supposed to be using them are using them? I know that's a big undertaking, and we can't have a CHP or a cop or security or whoever at every point of the freeway. But I'm wondering if the better option is not to build and just improve on what we have. Of course, that's not something that somebody wants to hear, especially when we know traffic congestion on the 101 is an issue. So, and I see on the alternative 2, it shows that the auxiliary lane is on the shoulder and the HOV lane is in the median. Is it possible, instead of having an HOV lane, that the auxiliary lane is where the HOV lane is, and that certain times, particularly during the peak hour times, that it is utilized as an express lane, bus lane, and then on the off-peak, that it's utilized as a regular lane? Could that be an option?
Okay, you gave me a lot to unpack there. Maybe I'll start with the last part of your comment, and then we'll see if we need to go back to some of the other things. Part-time usage of an express lane, whether it's called a carpool lane or something else, is something that has been experimented with around the state, is in operation around the state. So it is a possibility. One of the challenges of doing that is that you end up with time of day restrictions that can be confusing to certain drivers that are not familiar with it. Those that drive the freeway every day, they're probably going to become very familiar with it very quickly. But if you have people that are from out of the area, and this section of 101 has a fair amount of traffic that goes through the corridor, does not originate or end within the corridor. So you have a number of people who are unfamiliar or would be unfamiliar with something that changes with time. So is it a possibility? Yes. It is being used elsewhere. It just didn't seem that it fit the needs of this corridor. During the off-peaks within our study area, the demand is low enough that the existing number of general purpose lanes meets that demand. So having an additional lane that maybe is being used sometime or not being used other times didn't meet the need for this corridor. So that's why that particular idea did not get carried forward through the rest of the process.
Now, I'm going to stop you and jump in real quick, because in LA County, the Board of Supervisors over there a couple of years ago were talking about the HOV lanes increasing, and this might be a question for Caltrans, but they were trying to increase the number of individuals in a vehicle to be able to ride in the carpool lane. Because currently, right now, it's only 2 or more, but they were trying to make it 3 or more. Is that an option that this commission has in order to deal with that, or is that a Caltrans thing? How does that actually work out?
Occupancy was something that was evaluated in the alternatives evaluation stage of this project. So we looked at both 2+ and 3+ occupancy for the HOV lane. When you look at